What is going on, fellow trumpeters and musicians? My name is Josh Rzepka, and today is Mute Monday. Now, if you're new around here, Mute Monday is a weekly series where I discuss and demonstrate different trumpet mutes. Now, before we get started, if you would like to take your trumpet playing and your mute game to the next level, well, I have created a free mute handbook that you can download by clicking the link below. Enter your email address and I will send to your inbox a free mute handbook that is filled with tips and tricks that are designed to help you play better starting today. Now, today's video I had a lot of requests for. A lot of people messaged me asking if I could do a video on practice mutes. And it's no wonder so many of us are stuck at home and we've got to practice. Well, I know a lot of you are in apartment buildings and you've got neighbors that may not be so thrilled that they've got a trumpet player living next to them. And some of you have got little kids, maybe you've got a new baby. And some of you may have a spouse or significant other that has to be on Zoom calls all day and you need to keep it down. Or maybe your work schedule is just that you can only practice late at night. Whatever your reason is, you may find yourself using a practice mute. If you've never played with a practice mute, well, what is a practice mute? A practice mute keeps the sound level to a minimum. It really softens the trumpet to a level where you could play it at any hour of the day. And even though it's called a practice mute, you're not going to want to practice every day using a practice mute. If you don't need to, I would recommend not using a practice mute. However, in those situations where you've really got to use one because you can't play with an open bell, because it's way too early. I use a practice mute when I'm traveling and on the road all the time in airports. I use it very early in the morning if I have to warm up, let's say for Easter Sunday services. I'm up very early for these early church services. If your service starts at 7 or 8 a.m., well, you've got to be warming up very early, and a practice mute comes in very, very handy. And those are just a couple of the situations where you may find yourself using a practice mute. Now, I have got 8 different practice mutes here that I'm going to be sharing, and they really span a wide variety of styles and materials because you're going to be able to hear a bunch of mutes and make up your own mind about which ones you think sound the best and which ones you think might work well for you. Now, I'm going to play all of these mutes for you, and then I'm going to try and describe how they played and how they responded, but you're going to be able to hear while I'm playing if it's really reducing the level a whole lot, if the notes are coming out evenly, if all the notes and all the registers are responding well, and anything else about the mute which you may or may not like. And this will help you to make a more informed decision if you are going to go buy a practice mute. Now, starting off, we are going to check out this Yamaha silent brass. This is the second generation. I did own the first generation. I no longer have it. The second generation, this is great. Check this mute out. There is some foam here which keeps it in your bell. Of course, the Yamaha silent brass is known. There is a microphone at the end of this mute, and there is a headphone jack here. It plugs into a little box which simulates reverb, and you can adjust the volume on it. So you can put this in your trumpet, put some headphones on, and turn that on, and you can actually feel as though you're playing in a much larger room. That's what it sounds like. I'm not going to be reviewing that little electronic unit today. I'm just going to be reviewing this mute. And I will say this is the practice mute that I bring on the road with me the most. I love this mute. It really fits in the bell very well. And it's so small and compact that when it goes in the bell, it still fits in your case. It doesn't stick out at the end, which is essential if you're really trying to pack light and not bring too many things on the road. Next up is another one of the most popular practice mutes on the market. This is the Bremer sshhmute, and check that out. This mute right here is plastic, and this is an earlier version. I believe that they have a newer version, but I don't think that the design has changed. I may be wrong on that, but I believe the design is the same. This is a fantastic mute. So many people really prefer this as their go-to practice mute. I would take this with me on the road a lot more if it were a lot smaller. It doesn't fit inside the bell the same as that Yamaha, so it's a little harder for me to pack, and because of that I end up leaving this at home more often than not. But this is a fantastic mute. Coming up next, I have a beautiful and just incredible practice mute from Tom Clary. This is the Clary Woodmutes practice mute. Check this out. This mute is just spectacular. The craftsmanship on this mute is just something else. Look at that. This is handmade. The woodworking on it is just spectacular. It's got a nice foam on the top. It's got a little weight to it, but this is a quality made mute, and I think you're gonna love how it sounds. This is really a great practice mute. Coming up next, we've got 3 mutes from Mutec, and starting off with the smallest, this is a little small practice mute, and this fits in the bell pretty well. It doesn't fit in all the way, not perfectly like the Yamaha Silent Brass. However, it does fit in very well, and this is a great option. So I'm going to play this for you, and then I'm going to compare it with the other 2 options that Mutec has, and both of these, from the side, they look like Harman mutes. However, check out the bottom. There's no hole, there's no stem. There's only a couple small holes around the edge, around the perimeter, and that lets the air out, and these are cool practice mutes, and they do a pretty nice job, and it's a different design than most of the practice mutes that are out there. This one here is made out of plastic, and this one here is made out of aluminum. I don't see too many people using these mutes, so I'm not sure if it's because they're not familiar with them or they don't know they exist, but these are nice sounding mutes, and I think they might just surprise you. For the final 2 mutes, this one we checked out a number of weeks ago. This is the Faxx Mutes practice mute, and this is a nice little practice mute. It is very, very similar to the Mutec practice mute, so we're going to hear this one again, and then to finish it all up, we are going to hear this Wallace practice mute. Wallace Mutes, check it out. These mutes right here, these are made in Scotland, and this one right here, actually, there's a piece that goes on the inside of this, and you can actually push it in and out, but we're just going to leave it in one position while we're playing today. So 8 practice mutes. We've got a whole bunch of different materials. We've got one with a microphone, we've got some real low-tech ones, we've got a plastic one, we've got a bunch of aluminum ones, and of course we have this beautiful wooden mute. So I'm going to play all of these for you so you can hear how they all sound, and you can hear how they respond throughout the registers, how much sound they really reduce, and are they in tune. And then I will share at the end my thoughts on how they played. A lot of people find practice mutes to have a lot of back pressure, and a lot of people don't like playing in practice mutes because it actually affects and changes how you play, and a lot of people don't like that. So we are always looking for the best practice mute, the one that is the most open, the one where it really feels like we're just playing open, but it reduces the amount of sound coming out of the bell. So without any further talking, here are all 8 of these practice mutes. So you just heard all 8 of these practice mutes, and how about that? Every single one of these, not only do they sound different, but they play different and they feel different. So it's a little difficult to compare them, you know, side by side and say, well, this is the best, because each one of them has got its own strengths and weaknesses. Now, starting off with this Yamaha silent brass, as I mentioned earlier, I love how this mute fits in the bell, it doesn't stick out, and it's perfect for storing in your trumpet while you're traveling. It's a great mute, it really reduces the sound a lot, and the back pressure on it is not that bad at all. Some practice mutes have got a lot of back pressure. I don't think that this one has too much. You're definitely going to notice it, but it is not, it's not oppressive. It's not going to really mess with your playing too much. I've used this on a lot of practice sessions in hotel rooms and in airport terminals, and it definitely works. So that is a great option for you. If you're traveling a lot, I would really recommend the Yamaha silent brass, the newest one. I will say that is the most expensive mute of this entire lot. It comes with a little box, and I don't really use that. I used it a couple times. I didn't review it in this video, but it works great, but it's just too complicated. It's just so much easier to just stick it in the bell and play. Now, going on that idea of ultra compact and fitting in the bell really well, both of these mutes, the Mutec and the Faxx practice mute, both of these are very compact. They're gonna fit in your bag really easily, and they're nice practice mutes. They really reduce the sound considerably, and the response, everything about them is all right. The back pressure is not too bad. I would not say that these respond and play better than that Yamaha silent brass. However, these are much less expensive, and if you're not storing it in your trumpet, it's actually going to take up even less space in your bag. Moving on from that is another one of the mutes which is very popular among my friends who tour, and this is the Bremer's mute, and this is a great mute, and I picked this up years ago at the ITG conference, and they make these in New Zealand. It's a great mute, great company, and the only criticism I have about this mute is just the size. The size of this mute is just so much bigger than any of the other practice mutes, and it takes up a lot of space in your bag compared to all the other ones. That being said, the response on this is very nice. The evenness is very nice. The articulation, this is a nice practice mute, and it's going to get the job done. And you're not going to feel like you've beat yourself in the face after going through a practice session with this mute. So this is one of the more open practice mutes in my opinion. Now speaking of open practice mutes, these two mutes from Mutec, these are less traditional shape and design of practice mutes, but I will say these two felt really open. This one in particular. This plastic one, when I played really low on this practice one, there's not that many holes in the side of the mute, and the way it lets the air out, when you're playing a low note, you're using a lot of air, and you actually heard the air kind of coming out of it. So I think the aluminum one is the one to go for if you're going to be getting one of these styles of mutes. These are going to be a little more delicate than all the other mutes that I've shared. It's like a Harman mute. If you drop it, it's going to get dented and smashed up, and I don't know how that is going to affect how it plays. The articulation on these mutes is not as secure and as clean as all of the rest of the practice mutes. I will say that the openness and the fullness of tone and just the blow, the way that it felt playing with this mute, I think this was probably the most open resistance-wise of all of the mutes that I played today. So that's kind of interesting, and I'm not sure that for me this is the right one, just because the articulation on this one is a little trickier. It's a little like fuzzy and fluffy. I know for me in my practice sessions that's just not going to work out. However, I know that this is going to be the perfect mute for a lot of you out there, so something worth considering. Definitely that one surprised me a whole lot. Moving on, we've got this beautiful practice mute from Tom Clary from Clary Woodmutes. Check that out. The wood on this, the craftsmanship, the way this is made is just spectacular. And I love this mute. It plays great. It doesn't have the most sound reduction, and it's not the most compact. But I will say this may have been one of the most even mutes of this entire lot. I was able to play throughout the entire register on this mute, and it really felt nice. It really felt even, and that is just such a great accomplishment. So many mutes out there, they don't respond throughout the entire register. If you're really low or if you're really high, I've used this mute well into the upper register, high G's, high A's, and this responds throughout all of the registers on the trumpet. This is really a fantastic practice mute, and also I just can't get past how great this mute looks. Tom Clary just does a spectacular job with all of his mutes. You know, this is a work of art, and it plays great too, so you cannot lose with this mute. And to finish it up, we had this fantastic Wallace practice mute. I actually got this mute for free when I bought my trumpet. This was a promotion from the music store. They gave me a practice mute, and I'm very happy that I got it because this is a fantastic mute. I brought this on the road. I've used it extensively, and it responds great. It plays very well throughout the registers. It really lowers the sound a very good amount. And I did mention earlier that there's actually, on the end here, you'll see inside there's like a little piece that's like a stem from a Harman mute, right? And check this out. You can actually push it in, and you can push it all the way in. You need a pencil or a pen or something to really, and that actually changes how it sounds. And I didn't experiment with that for this demonstration. Maybe in a future video I will demonstrate how it sounds, you know, at the very end versus the other end, so you can hear how that changes the response and the sound. But this is a great mute. It really performs. It really responds great throughout the registers, and the articulation is pretty nice. And like I said, every single one of these practice mutes, they all sound different. And it's going to be a compromise. It's always a compromise with trumpet mutes. There's never going to be a mute that's going to check off every single box for every single circumstance and situation. You've got to use the right tool for the right job. And some of these mutes, maybe they might be perfect for traveling, but maybe it's not the best feeling and the most open mute. And then some of them are going to be really open, but it doesn't have the articulation that you're really looking for. So experiment. Get a couple of different practice mutes and really see which one works best for you. But I think that this video should give you a great representation of how all of these mutes sound and the type of response that you can get from all of them. So hopefully you have all found this to be very helpful. Let me know which one of these mutes was your favorite in the comments below. I'm not sure that I could pick a favorite out of all of these, like a favorite all around. I would say that my favorite for traveling is definitely that Yamaha silent brass. I think my favorite as far as overall response and certainly looks is that Clary Woodmute. I think the Wallace Mute really comes very high up there as well. It just performs great. I really loved the openness of that Mutec aluminum mute. It's an unusual design, but the openness was great. Although that one had the compromise with the articulation. So I guess it's a good thing that I own all 8 of these mutes because I can use whichever one I want depending on the situation. All right, that is all I have got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have not yet subscribed, please consider clicking that subscribe button, like right now. Thank you. And hitting that like button if you got something out of this video. Please share it with some of your friends. It really makes a very big difference. Thanks for tuning in today, and as always, every Monday there is a brand new Mute Monday video coming up next week. Well, I'm not quite sure what mutes I'm going to be checking out next week. I'm waiting for a few in the mail, and if they show up in time, then those are going to be the surprise mutes for next week. Otherwise, I will be digging into my collection, and I will probably be sharing something old and something new. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.